Welcome back to Watch Party Wednesday. Appreciate you joining us on this fine day. I'm BJ Kissel, joined by Mitch Holtis and Matt McMullen. In this episode, we are going to break down the Week 11 Chiefs versus Chargers game at Estadio Azteca down in Mexico City, Monday Night Football. There's a lot to break down in this one. We'll get to it real quick. But first, Mitch, when we went down and traveled down to Mexico City the night before, the fine folks at KC Southern were taking care of us, and we had a dinner that was very memorable, something we're all gonna remember for a long time.
Yeah, and I'm back in Mexico City with my jacket here, so I had to get in the mood. First of all, we saw the impact Kansas City Southern has, not only in our country, but in the country of Mexico. Met some phenomenal people, and a mariachi band that sounded like the Kansas City Symphony. That was like no mariachi band I've ever heard. They were phenomenal. The other thing about this game and this trip, the fruit tree of Super Bowl 54, BJ, was planted in Mexico City in this game.
And Mitch, it wasn't just in Mexico, the things that were going on. There was also a lot of cool stuff in Kansas City going on the week leading into this game in the community. In particular, Tyrann Mathieu and Juan Thornhill surprised the mother of 5 kids with a check to cover her utilities for the entire year, of course, in partnership with Kansas City Southern. It's really cool stuff in the Hispanic community here in Kansas City leading into this game. As you said, that turned out to be a pretty big one.
The stadium, the crowd, the altitude. We're going to share all these stories, all the things that we remember from this game right now. Matt, you talked about Tyrann doing work the week before the game. He did work during the game as well. So let's go to kickoff right now. And again, as you're watching, fans, if you've got any questions for us, please let us know in the chat room as we get this game kicked off right now.
Monday Night Football has come to this. The NFL average this season is 62%. As Harrison Butker.
So the one thing, Mitch, when you were just kind of like walking around, like going into the game, like did you notice the altitude when you were walking around the stadium, when you were walking around those couple of days?
Yeah, because there was no elevator to get up to the high level that we were at. It was the spiral staircase, kind of like Arrowhead Stadium, but like double the route. And I mean, I was feeling it in both lungs about halfway up. So yeah, you felt like you were climbing Everest.
Yeah, a video out on Twitter before the game of the route to go from the field to the locker room, and there's probably about a quarter-mile walk on a steady incline on this little ramp tunnel thing that they had created. And I think I went back and forth like 6 times pregame just doing different stuff, and I was winded. And I remember they didn't end up doing it, but I remember there was talk before about some teams toying with the idea of not going to the locker room at halftime because of the elevation, how long of a walk it was, and the fact those guys were in the middle of playing a football game. They ended up doing it, at least in this game they did, but something I remember them talking about, and then being down there, you kind of see how that happened.
So you guys had the luxury of being there. What was the vibe like in the crowd and in the stadium, I guess, in pregame and as the game went on?
Man, it was like a Super Bowl. This is their Super Bowl in the country of Mexico. You could see it with the signage, the attention, the fan reaction, even in our bus ride, which was a long bus ride, BJ, as you know, from our hotel to the stadium, a long bus ride. But this is a big deal to the country of Mexico. They spend all year on it. So a lot of our people spend all year getting ready for this.
Yeah, I remember the other thing about it is the Chargers home game. So all the in-game entertainment stuff, all of the, chanting defense type signs, all that stuff was geared towards, getting the crowd on the Chargers side. I remember early in this game on some of these plays, you'll see the Chargers players afterwards like run 10, 15 yards down the field and try to get the crowd into it, almost like they knew that they had to kind of sell early on to try to get the crowd on their side.
Interesting.
That didn't account, though, BJ, for the zillion Chiefs fans that were at this game.
That will not be the case
Yeah.
as it goes out the back of the end zone, and we say hello.
Well, guys, we talked over that drive there, but for the Chargers, I thought it was a pretty important thing that the Chiefs held the Chargers to just 3 points there. Because if you think about it, they were moving the ball in chunks early on in that drive, and then to hold them to 3 ended up being pretty pivotal later on.
To me, it's the story of the game. Go ahead. Well, to me, it's the story of the game that only 1 of 4 trips in the red zone was a Charger touchdown. And that was an issue for them. And you look at it, they were near the bottom of the league in red zone touchdown efficiency. To me, that's the difference in the game. Chiefs were 2 of 2 in the red zone. They were 1 of 4.
You want to play quarterback in the NFL, you got to stand in there and a play like this and deliver with a guy coming in your face, hits him in stride. Those are those little plays that you see from Patrick Mahomes where he just hits the guy in stride, he delivers the ball, didn't even get through his follow through. Sammy gets hit in stride, picks up a nice chunk yards. Those are little things. So good.
The way he throws that, I mean, on a laser, but falling backwards like that, it's not stepping into it at all. It looks effortless.
Who was covered by Michael Davis.
And
The other
BJ,
thing about this, go ahead, Mitch.
well, what we saw in this game, too, is how good this Charger defense is. This looked like the 49er game in the Super Bowl because Pat was getting hit and pressured all night long. This is a good defense, and you put Derwin James back there, that's even better. But it was constant pressure from this Charger D.
Yeah, and you knew that this was their Super Bowl. I mean, they're 4-6 at this point, and they want to make a little run. The Raiders are right there at the top of the division with the Chiefs at this point at 6-4. So this was the Super Bowl to the Chargers. They couldn't lose another and feel like, even if they ran the table after this, 9-7 probably wasn't going to get it done. So this meant everything to them.
Well, and all the talk in this game too, BJ, was the Raiders are 6-4. The Raiders are 6-4. I bet I heard it 15 times. The Raiders are 6-4, meaning that the division race is on. The Chiefs might get dethroned, and that's why to get a half game ahead at 7-4 to win this one, and then just dust them the next game.
We think too, coming off the Titans game, like the Chiefs did, just a devastating loss. This game was really important in a lot of ways, and going on the road, out of the country, and a game you really have to win against a hungry divisional opponent. This was critical. So the way the Chiefs ended up bouncing back here in the second half and how the defense played the whole game, really pretty important.
Yeah, I thought it was really interesting too. We talk about, what happened on the field, but the prep that goes into it and the decisions that Andy Reid, Rick Burkholder, and Mark Donovan, the entire Chiefs staff had to figure out, how do they handle the altitude? What do they do? We saw that the Chargers go to Colorado for a week and train because they wanted to train in the altitude, whereas the Chiefs went down late. And Mitch, it was very similar to 2015 in London, where the Detroit Lions went over to London. They were there all week to try to get acclimated to the sleep schedule and all this, where the Chiefs take a different approach. And we've seen in both instances, the Chiefs came out and got the win in both those situations. So those little decisions that are made, the months leading up to it when the schedule comes out, just like the schedule is coming out tomorrow. So check out our live stream. We'll be going on at 6:15. But you got to give credit to those kinds of decisions too to get the guys ready to play.
A lot of Chiefs Kingdom doesn't know who Mitch Reynolds is, but they would if they knew how much work he put into this game. The other thing is there was some discussion at one point for the Chiefs to go to Laramie, Wyoming, where the University of Wyoming is located, to work out an altitude. That's 7,000 feet above sea level, much like Mexico City. Denver and Colorado Springs, only 5,000 feet. Instead, Andy Reid decides to stay at 1,100 feet above sea level, and it worked out okay. It was like London in 15 going, wow, we're going over there right before the game. I hope this works. Landy's 2-0 in these decisions.
We got a question from the chat room from Jay Quick. Do you guys think Andy will use Hardman more and give him more responsibility now in his second season? Mitch?
Absolutely. I think big time. And we talk a lot about the year 1 to year 2 development, but absolutely. I think there's going to be way more expected of him and put on his plate, and he's ready for it.
I totally agree. You look at his season last year, led the league in yards per reception, had 600 yards, 7 touchdowns. Guy's a game changer, a playmaker. And I think, BJ, we've talked about this before, but when you have a guy that can focus on the NFL season in the offseason as opposed to just getting drafted like he had to last year around this time, he'll make leaps and bounds this upcoming season. I'm excited to see what he can do.
We got to mention that play right there.
He was only targeted, I think, 9 times in the last 8 games and had 6 catches for 164 yards and 2 touchdowns. He didn't have that many targets late in the year, but he made it count when he got them.
I want to go back to that scramble right there from Patrick Mahomes. He finishes his game with 59 yards rushing. It was the most rushing games he's had in a game in his career. And it's even more impressive. This is like, 2 weeks after he comes back from the injury, with the knee injury, and the fact that he was able to scramble around and pick up that huge third down right there. Obviously, it leads to the interception, but it was good to see him and kind of, I think, made everybody feel a little bit better, even though, that Titans game, he throws for 446 yards in his first game back.
I've never been more proud of Pat Mahomes than this game. This game was not pretty. It was not fantasy football, 400 yards and 5 touchdowns. He guts this game out. And I really think it set up his gutsy effort in the Super Bowl because there was nothing to do in this game but just slug it out. He made the key plays in the later in the second half that we'll see, but this first half is rough.
Hey, speaking of showing some guts, how about Mike Piniella right there? This guy was a lightning rod for the defense the second half of the year. You think about acquisitions like first-round picks and big contract guys, but guys like Mike Piniella are one of the reasons the Chiefs won the Super Bowl, and this was one of his coming-out parties in this one.
Yeah, Phillip Rivers was pressured on a third of his dropbacks in this game, and it was a storyline coming in. They were without both their starting tackles. they had 2 backup tackles, and you knew it was going to be a long day for those guys, and it was. Even on the inside, they were getting pressure, but Frank Clark had himself a game, and Phillip Rivers was very uncomfortable. And there was a lot of trash talking as well, as happens when there's pressure in Phillip Rivers.
This game, too, and I'm glad Matt brought up Piniella, because this was the arrival of Piniella. Remember, he was an active coach's decision against Tennessee in the game before. Plus, we saw the emergence here of Derek Nottie. Nottie's making several plays in here. Even if he doesn't directly can make the tackle, he's influencing the play and helping Frank like this. This is just
look at that.
Big boy interception.
Great timing, Mitch.
12-pounder.
I was going, but after the game, I go, dude, you got to go to the house with that. How come he does not turn that into a pick six?
That's like
the only problem with that play is Frank doesn't get credit for a strip sack or a forced fumble there. It's just a straight interception for Nottie. So I felt bad for Frank. He doesn't get really any stats for that. But I mean, what a combination there between him and Nottie to take the ball away.
Straight Derek Thomas here. That's a Derek Thomas move. But look at Nottie. Why is he's got to look for the end zone right here. Go for it.
I don't think Frank cares about stats. He was on one this week. I remember talking to him in the locker room leading into this week because he finally started to feel better. I talked to him each and every week leading into the games, and he was dealing with a nerve issue. He was all banged up. And this is the first time he started to feel pretty good. And I remember him saying, like, I feel like I'm going to have a good one. And I think it was after either that one or his other sack. He runs by the sideline. He's like, I'm going to get you another one, BJ. It's like he's in a good mood. This guy is in a good mood right now.
2nd down and 12. Mahomes. Oh, ball came out really awkwardly that time as he was about to pump.
We got another question. CB says, more Chargers or Chiefs fans at the game and just around town during the week. Just from the hotel, we didn't go around town a whole lot besides the dinner that we went to, and there was all Chiefs fans there. But I saw a lot of Chiefs fans who were there. There were a lot in our hotel who were out walking around, and then you heard them towards the end of the game getting into it, and the crowd kind of switched towards the Chiefs anyway. But
I think that fan base has grown ever since the Chiefs. They played in Monterrey, Mexico in the late 90s, I believe. But the Chiefs have become one of the more preeminent AFC teams. You know, the Cowboys are a big team there in Mexico. But, man, this fandom throughout the country is getting, like it is around the world in many cases, a lot more awareness and like for the Chiefs.
As Gordon gets some pad leverage, a flag is down as he goes ahead for 5 yards to the holding.
It's one of the more memorable games from Honey Badger as well. We saw him make plays throughout. Although, while there's a lot of plays he is going to remember, there's one later in the game that may be the most frustrating play of his career. But yeah, the Steve Spagnuolo's scheme. I mean, obviously you walk away with 4 interceptions, despite facing a guy that is known to throw a lot of interceptions. Mitch, I know you're just itching to get on. I know you've got stats prepared about Phillip Rivers. But the way that Steve Spagnuolo, schemed up this defense, we know that Phillip Rivers loves to go across the middle of the field. I think like 35 of his 42 passes were across the middle, and you see right there. Yeah. Unbelievable read from Honey Badger and an unbelievable just scheme set up. They basically sit back and make it look like cover 2, and then he slides down and takes away the middle of the field, and Phillip Rivers doesn't see him at all. And it was just a great job by Spagnuolo and instinctive play by Matthew.
This is an kind of explosive play we were talking about with him on Defending the Kingdom, and where the Chiefs can jump up next year. Not only does he read it, make it, watch how explosive he is right there.
Yes.
And he turns it into, this is a devastating play for them, because really the Chargers are in control of this game up until this point.
Absolutely. The offense was struggling. So for Matthew to get this interception, put them the Chiefs in scoring position here where they get a touchdown in a minute, was huge. I think it's kind of poetic too, because guys like Frank Clark and Tyrann Mathieu both having huge games in this one. They were the guys that were seen as the tone setters on defense going into the year. So the fact that they kind of were the ones that kind of willed this defense to make sure they held on to this game, I think was pretty cool. And then of course Shady capped it off with a touchdown here.
It's Deion Yelder. You got to give Deion Yelder some credit. He blocked 2 guys on that play, and a lot of people are going to remember his penalty, the fumble. They ended up getting called back to the penalty, but Deion Yelder deserves credit on both touchdown runs. That one right there, and then on the one later in the game, he had the key blocks on both of those plays.
Easy to forget, Blake Bell did not play in this game. He was out. Same thing with Kendall Fuller, but Yelder had to step up, EJ. There was nobody else.
He got it done. And we got another question. Do you guys think the Chiefs can make history and win their 5th division title? And has anyone done that in team history? Well, actually, the Chiefs had never won 3 straight, so they're already playing with house money when it comes to winning division titles. They've got a ways to go to catch up with the Patriots, who I think have won like 16 of the last 17 AFC East, which are goals. But yeah, 5th division title, I'll take it.
Yeah, they hadn't even had back-to-back, so 5 sounds real good to me.
Yeah, well, and when you have Patrick Mahomes, he's a good shot. I feel pretty good about the Chiefs' chances.
And in stride, he's able to connect with Hunter
Henry. It's another guy went healthy, one of the better ones. There's a reason that they franchise tagged him for a guy that hasn't put up huge numbers in any big season or been consistent. That guy can stay healthy. He's a huge part of that offense. As is this guy.
This Eckler fellow is pretty good. Got to give credit where credit is due. He's a great player. Had a good game in this one. So shifty.
Yeah, the question is, can he be the bell cow? Now that Gordon's gone, how many more touches will he get, and can he hold up?
Speaking of getting it done, can we grade Phillip Rivers' attempt at a block right there? Or yeah, attempt at a block right there.
Too high beyond Hunter Henry. Play clock running down. Just get it off. Rivers backs up. Shallow cross is denied that time.
And this is a big stand. Matt brought this up earlier. These are huge red zone stands. Javarius making this play, and then Thornhill's going to make the next one. I mean, these are gigantic plays.
What a PD.
That is picture perfect. This is one of the better games that Charvarius Ward had on the season. He had a few nice pass breakups. He had one on Mike Williams, too, where he finished the play. But that one right there is a phenomenal play and a tough red zone on a tough route to cover. That guy. How excited are you to see that guy back on the field next season?
You know he's going to go to Keenan Allen. But, yeah, I think Thornhill, too, jumps up. But this is picture perfect. Coverage, execution, and holds him to a field goal.
Even if he holds on to that ball, it's not going to be.
Let's see if this turf holds up.
And again, for everybody watching, we are going to have a live stream announcing the Chiefs 2020 schedule tomorrow. That is Thursday night at 6:15 on all the Chiefs social channels. You're going to hear from Tyrann Mathieu. We're going to get his reaction to the Chiefs 2020 schedule, as well as Coach Reed. And Mark Donovan is going to join us early on. We're going live at 6:15. The schedule will be announced at 6:30 on our own channels, while the NFL will announce the entire NFL schedule at 7 o'clock. So please join us. It should be a whole lot of fun, and get some good perspectives on what this schedule is going to look like, and figure out, what the run it back schedule looks like.
Yeah, and this is Damian Williams going down, guys. At the time, we thought, could be for the year. It almost ended up being a blessing in disguise because his legs were fresh for the playoff run. But again, the depth at running back, BJ, you and I talked about it. Everybody goes, who's the RB1? Who's the RB1? They're all RB1s because you need them all. And in this game, Darrell Williams steps up, makes some big plays when Damian went down.
Yeah. Anybody who wonders why they would take a running back in the first round, you've got Damian Williams. Why would you do that? You need so many guys, even in the course of one game, let alone if there aren't even injuries. Oh, it's a beautiful pass. Put it in the Louvre. That's beautiful.
Travis Kelce had a nice game in this one. 7 catches for just over 90 yards, I believe. A lot of catches like that.
And we can see the dream shake in the second half. I want to say like 6 of his 7 catches or something like that came in the second half. We knew coming into this game, Gus Bradley runs a lot of zone. They're running 65% of what they did was zone. A lot of that deep cover 3, that press cover 3 bail stuff that we saw, that was made famous up in Seattle. So you knew that coming in. But the second half, they made some adjustments because offensively, they didn't do all that much in the first half. They made some plays in the second half, but Travis Kelce really kind of showed up in the second half, and that dream shake that we're going to see is one of the most beautiful. He's good at it. It's probably the best one of his career. It's awesome. All right, Mitch, we've got a question from Susan Fonseca, coming from the chat room. How would a player like Willie Gay Jr. have impacted this game, particularly going up against Austin Eckler?
That's a great question. I think it takes it up a notch. You get a coverage type player and a linebacker who can cover like a safety and even like a corner, particularly when you run a 4-6 that he runs 4-5, 4-6. So he has a big impact, especially against these guys, because this team loves to run circles and get the ball to the backs at the second level, either circles, F-stops, or even out patterns or checkdowns. So I think had big impact. It's why I'm excited about his addition. I thought about the Chargers, the very first team, when we selected Willie Gay Jr.
Think about the Broncos, too, with Philip Lindsay and now Gordon on their team. He'll help a lot in that area as well, facing Denver.
You saw it across the entire division. You look at what the Oakland Raiders did in free agency, bringing over Nick Kiwatoski and Corey Littleton. They're going out getting linebackers who can cover, who can move. That wasn't what T. Hero Whitehead could do. Their linebackers in the past. It wasn't what Vontaze Burfict was about. You saw what the Chargers. I think they brought in Nick Vigil. So you're bringing all these speedy linebackers to try to cover and cover all this space that the Chiefs make you do, and the Chiefs are doing the same thing with Willie Gay Jr., who my favorite.
They just leaked Gordon out of the backfield. It's one-on-one against Neiman. And so, I mean, you can even jump that route sometimes if you've done your tape study and run it back the other way.
I think my favorite stat of Willie Gay Jr. was that Pro Football Focus had him as the highest coverage grade of any player at any position. So that's including corners, safeties, linebackers, whatever you want to say about their grades. Add context to it, but there's a bold move thrown into triple coverage, Mitch. But Willie Gay Jr., the guy who can run up
game 7.
Of all the Watch Party Wednesdays, Mitch, I think this was the one I was most looking forward to, just because I know how you feel about 17 and powder blue.
I think he's a good guy. I think he's a really good guy, but I've argued this for years. But I'll repeat the stat that we had on the tees. Philip Rivers ends his career as the Chargers quarterback as the 29th best quarterback in Chiefs history. His 39 interceptions against the Chiefs gives him the 29th most completions of any player to a Chief.
I think at this point in his career, I think Spagnuolo and everyone had known he can still make plays. He's still a very good quarterback at times, but a lot of those deep throws he used to make outside the numbers just doesn't attempt as many of those. It's a lot of stuff across the middle. And when you know that that's what he wants to do, you can start disguising, making things look like cover 2, like those seams are open, and then you just get Tyrann Mathieu, like we saw in the interception earlier, just to jump it and take away what Rivers thought he had open.
I also just won't miss the way he throws the ball. I don't know. It just drives me crazy with a little flick. I'm not going to miss that.
I disagree. I am going to miss him so much. How could his whining and complaining and getting upset, especially in this one. That's why I love being down on the sidelines for this game, because I know the TV broadcast caught it a lot. You saw like Frank Clark and Philip Rivers kind of getting after it. But Tyrann Mathieu is the one who started all of that. The TV didn't catch that it was really Mathieu who was in it. And I know that he did the Instagram Live with Kay Adams earlier this week from Good Morning Football, where he was talking about how much he's going to miss just the trash talk with Philip Rivers.
I did respect Rivers' comments after this game about how much he respected the Chiefs. That was cool stuff to see. When you can kind of back up your trash talk with being a good dude off the field. I do respect that about Philip.
Here's that fumble that called back, I believe, because of the penalty. But you know, somebody else who's spoken very highly of Philip Rivers throughout the years is Andy Reid. Every time he's talked to, we played him so many times, and he's always been out there. He's just been a fixture for the Chargers since they drafted him back with that whole Eli Manning thing way back when. But Coach Reid loves guys who love football and loves guys who compete. So say what we want and make jokes about the way that he whines and handles himself. That's just the way that his competitive nature is manifested that we can all see. But I'm going to miss him. I'm not going to lie.
Watch us now, all this chatter. Watch us play him in the playoffs in the first round against the Colts. But if he throws a pick six and the Titans run it the other way, Chris Ballard is going to freak out. Like, he's just got to cut the interceptions down. I just look at, they had 7 red zone giveaways, you guys. This is the Titan run, right? Almost. He's got another one of these late in the game. But the Chargers guys had 7 red zone giveaways. Think about that. Even if you get field goals, that's 21 points. If you get touchdowns, that's 49. You get 0. That was really the defining stat for me for this team, this Charger team.
And Mitch, that play right there, I want to bring it up just because you and I talked about this during the draft, that's what a 35-year-old Thomas Davis running him down, and there's a reason why they traded up for Kenneth Murray in the first round, and that is the exact kind of situation. Thomas Davis isn't going back. So that's the exact kind of play that I don't think the Chiefs are going to get away with next year, because I think Kenneth Murray makes that play, but Sammy Watkins makes plays like that too. You can't tackle these guys one-on-one in space. They're just too good.
I do have to say, though, with runs like Mahomes can do like that we saw in the Titans game and in this game, how frustrating must it be for a defense when you're facing the reigning league MVP? He doesn't see anything. He's scanning, can't find anything. You've covered well, and he takes off for 20 yards. It has to be so frustrating.
We've got another question from the chat room. With the AFC getting so much more talented, how do the Chiefs match up in the back end? And I'm going to start with this one and just say, we don't have to match up with it. They have to match up with us. Like, we just won the Super Bowl. We reloaded a little bit on offense. We know the defense coming back the second year in this system. I don't think we have to play catch up to anybody, but adding a Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Willie Gay Jr., and stuff that they did and patching some stuff up in free agency, I think it's more about them trying to catch us at this point.
Williams probing and then finding that goal line.
Touchdown.
But Darrell Williams, this is a great power O. I mean, Darrell Williams has a nose for the end zone. He's had 5 of them in the playoffs. But watch this power O, the pull here. They just, I mean,
There's one-on-one with Bosa.
The full down block from Schwartz takes out 2 guys. That's the way you score in a red zone.
There's Deion Yelder one-on-one with Bosa right in the middle. Runs right by him for the touchdown. Nice job, Deion Yelder.
And guys, the offense had struggled so much. I think just over 100 yards of offense in the first half. To really get something going, like get a drive going that you had to go the length of the field, I think was big for the Chiefs here.
And here on the return is Pope. And we'll be meeting up with these Chiefs.
Again, if you have any questions, please send them in the chat room and we'll answer as many as we can.
We overlooked the coverage units this team had this year, and kickoff coverage in particular. It was way better, I thought, than 18. We saw it happen in the Super Bowl with those 2 stones, kickoff returns late in the game. And you see it in this game, too. The Chargers don't get much in their return game at all. It makes a big difference in field position.
You guys, the other thing that we haven't talked a whole lot about in this one, another nice play from Charvarius Ward. The other thing we haven't talked about is just the field conditions. Obviously, it was an issue the year before with them making the transition from they had like the hybrid turf last year that with the Shakira concert ruined it, so they ended up moving the game to Los Angeles to play the Rams. And so that was a big storyline coming in this one, was what was the field going to look like? And I know from just being down on the sidelines, at the beginning of the game, it looked really nice. But I think that grass wasn't necessarily prepared to have 300-pound guys running around on it like they do at this sport. It's different than soccer. It's different than a lot of the other things that go on in that game. So throughout the game, it started to get tore up pretty good. And you saw during commercial breaks, you'd see the field workers that would run out on the field with buckets of sand that would be kind of dumping them to kind of fill in some of those holes. But you see different points, guys slipping and falling down, and it kind of became an issue towards the end of the game as it got tore up a little bit.
If this was golf, BJ, it would be cart path only. They wouldn't even let you out on this. And we also forgot here. Yeah, there's your shaky move.
Dream shake.
There it is.
But he can go either shoulder. It's cool. He goes the other shoulder early, and the other point of the game. But this turf, remember, the Chiefs lost Tyreek Hill. They tried to throw that deep middle route early in the game. Don't know if the turf caused it or not, but he doesn't play. He gets out of this game early on and does not return. But it is cart path only because this turf.
Yeah. I remember before the game that there was like the grass, and then there was about a 3 or 4 foot apron around the edge that was almost like pure sand. And if you stepped on it, like your foot sank. So I remember during pregame warmups, like Tyreek and McCole and Sammy and all those guys that are in the end zone kind of doing their warmups. I remember walking by and just like kind of I stepped on it and foot went down and kind of said something. I looked, I was like, you might told McCole, like, you might want to step and check this out. Because if they run out of the back of the end zone on a route or a touchdown or something, like that was something that they need to be aware of.
This is incredible. This might be his best catch of all time. This route. The catch and his footwork. This is textbook corner pattern in the red zone. 3 yards out of the red zone, but this route and catch is sick.
He looks like a receiver. I mean, right off his fingertips. Then he gets 2 down and he gets the toe drag.
And guys, this is the beauty of the Chiefs too, because they struggle all game. You feel like the Chargers are really in the game, and in a blink of an eye, they've scored 14 points just like that.
We got a couple questions in the chat room, but real quick, I'm going to throw this out to Mitch because it's a big statement. At what point does Travis Kelce need? How many more seasons does Travis Kelce need to put together that we've seen over the last few before he starts to enter that best ever in that conversation? You know, you don't have to label a guy, this is the best ever, but how much more does he need to do before he's legitimately in that conversation? Because again, 4 straight 1,000-yard seasons, never been done in NFL history, and now it's been done by Travis Kelce.
Well, he already has Hall of Fame credentials in my regard, and now that he's a Super Bowl champion, that just adds to that, but not much more. maybe a couple more seasons. But you start to list all the tight ends. We could even put T-Guns in there. I mean, all right down the line, whoever you want to put in there, from Ditka all the way to Gronkowski. Here's the question, BJ. Will he be the best ever? Will he be the GOAT? He's getting there, and he's getting there in a hurry.
Yeah.
Hey, guys, question from the comments. What division rival will be the Chiefs' toughest competition this year? What do you think?
Sorry,
Okay,
BJ, this is like you throwing the pitch. Fly ball to center, 2 outs, and you're running to the dugout and going, what? He dropped the ball? The center fielder dropped the ball? I mean, Tyron talked about dropping 8 picks. Oh, my gosh.
That's a veteran quarterback not being patient.
This is called a cookie. That's what this is called. Unbelievable.
Would have been 5.
Toughest, what was the question? Toughest division rival?
Yeah,
I'm
who will be the
excited.
toughest competition this year?
I'll go first. The Chargers are going to be, that defense is legit. That defense is the best side of the football, in my opinion, of any either offense or defense combined for every team in the division. The Chargers defense is the best group out of those 3 teams. But I'm more intrigued to see what happens with the Broncos. I think Chargers, because of that defense, but with all the weapons that they've given Drew Lock, if those guys all come together, that's kind of where I see, because they've got they feel like they've got that quarterback. We don't know about Justin Herbert. But for next year, I'm more intrigued by what the Broncos can do over the next 2 or 3 years if they can put it together quickly. But right next year, that Chargers defense is legit.
I got to see what Denver does at tackle on offense. To me, let's just be politically correct here and throw the Raiders in this discussion. I think they've stacked 2 draft classes together. I think last year's draft class was good. Even a guy like Max Crosby, who's been a great value pick for them, and Jacobs. But I think they have another good class to put with them, Matt. So I'd put the Raiders in the discussion as well.
The Chargers, after the Chiefs scored 2 consecutive touchdowns, got back into the game here. With the fourth quarter looming, kind of felt like a whole new ball game all of a sudden.
I hated the 2-point conversion. It brought back the Thursday night 2018 memories to me.
Yeah.
We got another question. Chandler Ivory asking, can you elaborate on how cornerbacks were underrated last year? That's a nuanced question, and I think it's tough because we spend so much time watching the Chiefs, and unless you watch every game of every team, you notice that even the best cornerbacks in the league give up plays. They get beat, and I think sometimes as fans you remember the bad the plays that were given up, the big ones, and you kind of forget some of the little crossers like we saw with Charvarius Ward earlier. But this is where target percentage, just some of the analytics I kind of lean on as far as what's a reception percentage when targeted and things like that, and how is he in run defense. And that's one thing that Bashaud Breeland and Charvarius Ward probably didn't get enough credit for, that those guys are willing to stick their noses in and tackle, which you just kind of expect an NFL players to do, especially a defensive player. But that's not always the case. And when you watch other games and other teams, you see those corners that aren't as willing to kind of do that. Maybe they'll jump at the legs a little bit. Maybe they'll kind of reach and grab and try to slow down. But those guys will stick their noses in there and hit. And they compete.
You can't hold the edge unless you have a corner or safety to fill. Charvarius Ward last year had 74 tackles as a corner, 4th best on the team. We know about he didn't 78 targets. He was only burned 37 times. That's 47%. That's the stuff we see. But BJ, your point is very well taken. What we don't see is a corner willing to come up and jolt the run. If you don't, even your outside guys, doesn't matter if they hold it, somebody's got to fill.
Coming across and getting an extra 4 yards after he was first met.
Look at the Honey Badger taking down a giant tight end like Hunter Henry.
He don't
by
care.
himself, no problem. He doesn't care.
He didn't care. It's a snake.
Philip Rivers, not thrilled.
Not he almost gets his 2nd pick. I want him to go to the house someday.
How awesome would that be?
The best.
There's Frank, monster. 7 pressures in this
fourth
game.
quarter sack.
Yeah, right. Precursor for the rest of the year.
I mean, this is a horror movie for Trey Pipkins now. Oh my gosh, they can't even. And he gets double teamed in this. He gets chipped and doubled, and he still gets to him.
Can't do it. Guys, I love stats. Stats for you on Frank. From week 7 until the end of the Super Bowl, Frank Clark had 12 sacks, 14 tackles for loss, and 18 quarterback hits. The guy was the best defensive end in the league from the middle of the year through the Super Bowl. It's tough because he started slow, but how he finished and how he closed out games in the playoffs, I mean, superstar level.
Superstar trash talker, too.
Yes.
He's good. He's good. Especially in this one.
Yeah.
And Mitch, we talked about it on the teaser, but before the before media, once the game was over in the locker room, I was standing there when Frank went up to Brett Veach and basically just said, "I told you what I was going to do when I got healthy." Like, just kind of matter of fact. Like, I told you what was going to happen. You don't have to worry about it.
He was right.
Yeah. Got a question from Logan Glendening. Which would you choose, the Chiefs or a hybrid of the other three AFC West teams? Matt, let's go to you first. What do you think?
Well, so which side has Patrick Mahomes? I believe the Chiefs, so I'll pick the Chiefs.
Hey, all due respect to the question, really? Come on. I mean, in all three phases, I'm Chiefs, checking all the boxes.
Guys, I'm going to be different, and I'm going to state the kid. You know what? No, that's not going to happen either.
There's talent in the AFC West, no doubt. There's some good teams, there's some good position groups, but the way the Chiefs are built, both their coaching staff and every phase of the team, offense, defense, special teams, and having the best quarterback in the league, I take the Chiefs all day.
See, this is what I want. I want to challenge the chat room right now to give us a question that we're going to disagree on. That's what I want. The challenge has been laid out to everybody who's watching and shooting comments in the YouTube and to our producers and picking those questions that are going to get us to disagree. That's what I want.
Contemplating that or waiting for that question. This is a Mitchie drive because this is 4 minutes. They eat time off the clock. And the Chiefs, again, it's not always going to be 400-yard games and we all win the fantasy league. The Chiefs team took a big step forward, and that's why I thought Pat Mahomes had a better year in 19 than 18. Even though they're punting here, they flip the field, take it from their own 22 to the Charger 8 and eat up 4 minutes. And it's just that much fewer chances and poor field position for the Chargers to try to tie this game.
Mitch, did you just refer to yourself in the third person? Like, did you say this is a Mitchie draft? Okay. I wasn't going to let that slide.
It's called coronavirus.
The other thing about guys, we talk about the defense and the altitude and being tired and the guys rotating, all that stuff. Think about this. Like, Chiefs are up by 7 points. The Chargers get the ball with 8 minutes. The Chargers get 3 drives in the final 8 minutes in this altitude with all these plays and the high energy, the fact it's Monday night. Like, the guys are exhausted, and they're going out 3rd and 3. Frank Clark splicing in. That's why you can't run a zone away from him and have Hunter Henry try to cut that guy off. But yeah, this defense stepped up, and more than just making plays at the end, when you add all the context of the altitude, the number of shots that the Chargers got late in this game, all the way down to the final play, made it even more impressive of a defensive effort.
Yeah, BJ, you look at the Chargers' final 4 drives after they narrowed the deficit with their touchdown. They go punt, interception, interception. Huge for the defense to step up like they did.
All right, here we go. Darren Forbes, which one of you has the best hair?
I mean,
with all due respect to my wife and the haircut that she gave me, the European soccer player look, I'm going to take myself out of the running. Mitch, Matt?
I mean, I don't mean to toot my own horn, but come on.
I'm starting to look more like Will Ferrell as Jackie Moon and Sarah.
Giving it to Mitch. I'm giving it to Mitch. You drop a Jackie reference Watch Party Wednesday.
I'm gonna. Since I'm Jackie Moon, I'm going with Matt because that's fabulous hair, Matt. But I'll disagree with DJ.
I appreciate that.
So Mitch is going with Matt. I'm going with Mitch. We disagree.
And nobody goes with BJ. 0 for 2.
All right. My wife will. Ellen Mathis, which division rival city is the best?
So now it's going to be a 3rd and 10.
San Diego.
Thank you.
3rd down and 10.
Am I politically incorrect because I'm saying move back there? All the great fans there, they're not going to. Anyway, don't get me started on that.
Rashad Fenton. Let's give Fenton some credit right here. That's a big time.
Yeah, but what's he doing? Look at he's got a check down here. He needs 7 points. If you go back and look at this, Eckler is wide open, sitting in a recliner, going, just throw me the ball and I'll run. And he goes to Patton guy, and there's playing deep center field. It's
a rookie. It's a 6th-round rookie pick. I'm going to challenge this guy. No, you don't challenge him.
You go after the Gamecock. You pay. This was kind of his game, and he's going, "What am I check down? Nah, I'm going to throw no check down."
was so cool, too, because the secondary was banged up going into this one. We really didn't know what we had in Fenton at this point. He played a little bit, but not a ton. To come up with a big play like that, you just root for guys like that to make plays like that in that kind of situation. And, I mean, he made a big difference toward the end of the year, and this game got him started.
Ooh, Mitch, you're going to love this question from the chat room because we have a loyal listener to Defending the Kingdom. It says, which do you value more? It's from Adam Harms. Which do you value more? Immediate on-field impact or crock-pot players?
Ooh. Well, they both have extreme value because you can't have a team without crock-pot players. And we have seen Andy Reid develop crock-pot players. You see many in this game on the screen right now. But at the immediate impact, I'm going to go with and actually, I'm going to kind of wince out of it and go maybe a mixture, like a McCole Hardman.
Oh, come on.
Hardman wasn't ready-made.
Pick a side.
But you kind of ease him into it, and then boom, he explodes. But you can't do it with just explosive guys or immediate guys. You got to have the crock-pot guys, too. Crock-pot is simmering with a whole bunch of guys.
Politician. I'm going crockpot guys because I love like the development, like the late round guys. And Brett Veach has said this to us before, Mitch and Matt. Like, it's easy to like know that Frank Clark is good and figure out the compensation to trade for a Frank Clark, but you can't have an entire team full of guys that anybody can watch and say that guy's really good at football. The ability to go find a Charvarius Ward and trade him for a backup offensive lineman and to get a corner who helps you go out and win a Super Bowl. To draft a Rashad Fenton in the 6th round to come out on Monday Night Football in a key AFC West game and make a play like that late in the 4th quarter is big time. So to me, it's the crockpot guys because that's the majority of your team. Like, you could be I'm not going to name a name, but there are certain teams in the AFC that get a lot of credit around the offseason in May and June and free agency, and their players say a lot of stuff and they get all hyped up. But at the end of the day, it's the entire roster. It's not just the 6 or 7 All-Stars, Pro Bowl guys you have. You have to have depth. You have to have talent all the way throughout your roster. And that's a reason that Brett Veach, Andy Reid, and this team went out and won a Super Bowl.
Exhibit A is going to be right coming up here because Dirty Dan Sorensen is a perfect example of a crockpot guy. And he comes in like Wade Davis in the Royals' heyday and closes this game out. But he was a guy that was developmental. I remember him on the lawn at St. Joe thinking he was going to make the team. And he comes up with the play in this game.
Yeah. And this was heart-pounding stuff because, Mitch, you mentioned earlier the Chargers' 2-point conversion a few years ago. You just knew if the Chargers scored on this drive, they were going for 2. There was no way this game was going to overtime. This drive is stressful. And the throw to Williams coming up here, the big play, the one thing I cannot figure out, guys, is why did the clock stop? Am I missing a rule? You'll see it here in a second, but the clock stopped and allowed the Chargers to get 40 yards up the field. I never understood that. You'll see it right here.
I think if this happened any other point in the game, it's discussed more, but because of the context, maybe they thought his hair touched out of bounds. Is that it?
He was down by contact though. He was touched. Yeah, I've gone back to look at it. I was going crazy back at the facility because I was thinking there's 20 seconds here they got for free.
I was telling him to throw a fade to Eckler in the end zone when Sword's in the coverage. That's what I was busy yelling at, Matt.
Well, you really get nervous here because this is a well-executed screen. Now, they're out of timeouts, which is a blessing. But here again is another. Guys, so he doesn't get here in first down. So he spikes it. Now he's got second down. He's got second down. Watch this play then. Like, he doesn't. Great job by Dirty Dan, but he's got another down to live. Why throw that ball?
I'll take it.
That was beautiful.
Dirty Dan, circle change, called third strike. He closes the game. Walk off.
Yes.
At
one
this
of many
point right
game-winning
here,
plays for Dirty Dan.
At this point right here, I was like, just teleport me back home. Like, it's late. We have a long trip. We won the game. Now get us back. I think we landed at like 7 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, but think about this. It was the bye week the next week. Now, this was Monday night, so we're getting shortened to the bye week anyway. But remember how good we felt like we're going to get a few days off, all of us. And then it's the only time I've been mad at him, Mahomes, because he wanted me to MC his fundraiser on Thursday night of the bye week.
Right in the middle.
I want to just go hide someplace. But this was a heck of a win. 7-4, got it out. Never to lose again. But people forget at the time, the season was getting desperate.
Yes. And several times in this game, Joe Tessitore, one of the commenters, mentions how bad the Chiefs defense is. Here's a few numbers for you about how this game got the Chiefs defense going. From this point until the end of the season, the Chiefs allowed just 11.5 points per game, best in the NFL. 7 overall touchdowns from scrimmage, best in the NFL. 4th fewest scrimmage yards allowed, and the 2nd fewest rushing yards allowed. And then their 10 interceptions were tied for the most in the NFL. This was the best defense in the NFL from this game forward.
There he is, Matt McNuggets. We love it. Thank you, everybody, so much for watching. Again, please, we'll do the watch party Wednesday again next week at 1 o'clock, but we have got a special live stream show tomorrow at 6:15 p.m. We will be breaking the Chiefs 2020 schedule. It's the first time that we've been able to do this, that the first time you will be able to see the Chiefs 2020 schedule is on our live streams tomorrow. We are going at 6:15. Again, we will be joined by Chiefs President Mark Donovan, safety, and the landlord Tyrann Mathieu is going to join us, and we'll also hear from Coach Reid as well. But before we let everybody go, Mitch, Matt, any parting thoughts about what this game meant moving forward?
This was it. This was the game. This was the Battle of Midway, if you want to get a World War II reference in here. This totally flipped the season. Took the Chargers out, propelled the Chiefs to what we said here. We forget, we know about the parades. I love these watch parties because it takes you back into the weeds of the season.
I totally agree with that. You think about, it was kind of a crossroads for the Chiefs. You come after that tough Titans loss, and where do you go? Do you build off of that, or do you find a way to have your season unravel? And really what the Chiefs did is they didn't allow that tough loss to define their season. They gutted it out against a really tough team in the Chargers that was fighting for their season, and as Mitch said, never lost again.
One of the last times they faced Phillip Rivers in a Chargers uniform. And next week on Wednesday, we'll be breaking down the Patriots game. And one of the last times you'll see Tom Brady in a Patriots uniform with two legends going to different teams this offseason. Again, everybody, we appreciate you for watching. Thanks for following along in the comment section and shooting us your thoughts. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next week.